All right, this is deja vu all over again. It says that we are live, and I screwed that one up. I did. I hit the wrong button, and it happens sometimes. That's just the way it is. So if you're back with me, then you truly are dedicated, and so thank you. So good to see everyone. I hope everyone makes it over. Yeah, sometimes it happens, but it's okay. What can you say? And it's still glitching. And I take that on. But anyway, if you heard on the other side, favor to all of us, it's Friday. And so good to see you. When I actually cut off the poll, it was interesting, like 84-16. So 84% believe that demons unreal and 16%, excuse me, say no. So it's interesting. Welcome, everyone. Speaking favor and prospering, all of us, one another. We are prospering. I'm prospering. Soul Tribe is prospering. And we thank Poel and Ariel. Way to go. See what's up, everybody. Hello, Marissa. What a great email. Going to get back to on that. Yes. So Loretta, what's up? Danielle, good to see you. City of Angels. Deborah, how you doing? Kaz, much love to you, dear. Alien Believer, Eye of the Maelstrom, how are you? David Castle, greetings. Good to see you as well. And everyone else. Hey, Gaza, how you doing? Thinking of you folks down there all the time. Yeah. Hey, Tina Bop, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing good, girl. What else is happening? And yeah, lots of comments last night on the Steiger perspective. Hey, you have to look at all possibilities. That's all I got to say. You can't simply come into one and say, nap, Hey, Brandy, wasn't able to email yet, but I am doing excellent. Excellent. Going to talk a little bit more about that, but actually it jumped out of the bag. So I just said, all right. So this is May Bahara. I believe that. Yep, I believe it is. May Bahara, like Isaiah. So that would be Medrabriah. Mebahiah. Okay. Angel of morality and intellectual lucidity. Love this. Deus Symptoneus, the eternal God. Patron of mystical and spiritual experience, intellectuals, mentalist, psychologists, coaches, and therapists. Brings clear ideas, creativity, and innovation. Teaches how to consciously use one senses to explore the world. Brings a sense of duty and responsibility. Allows us to face up to our obligations. Shows how to have a great sense of commitment. Symbol of inspiration, provides with mental solace. Bestows us with intellectual refinement and lucid thoughts. Fills us with energy to express our emotions in the right way. Teaches to live a life in which morality and ethics plays an important role. Shows how to behave in an exemplary way. Teaches positive ways of thinking and sharing knowledge. Protects from false concepts, lies, failures, and mental obscurity. I love that one. Mental obscurity. Wasn't it a Star Trek, the very first one, where the Enterprise landed where the gods were? Zeus, remember that one? And that's what he was saying. I'm coming to you. Mental obscurity. Whoa. Keeps us away from doubts, suspicion, and raising too many objections. Heals insensitive analytical minds. Exasperated sense of rationality. helps in situations like mind and mental health and brain issues. So pretty cool angel. All of them are. They all have a lesson to teach us, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. I mean, you could look at this as Aesop's fable. Each one has a lesson to bring. And, speaking of which, so true story, wife and I woke up to this. On my side of the bed, there was a feather. Kid you not. We don't use feather pillows. But anyway, this Poel, and by the way, the Y that is in the 72 angels, the Y is replaced with I, where in the 72 angel cards, the Y is replacing the I. So it's the same angel. But this is really a cool angel, I have to really say. And so I don't know if this will help, but this is what came to me, and I'm just saying this. When you read, and what I'm going to do is that I'll put all the list here. I'll actually put it out there, and we'll put it up on the website over there. And the name escapes me real quick, but that's all right. It's like you should say, well, thank you for bringing, I like how Jules puts it, thank you for your gifts and talents. Thank you for bringing those gifts and talents into my life. Thank you for bringing the protection because I'm a positive thinker. Thank you for bringing the fortune and wealth on every level into my life. Thank you, Poel. That's really very cool of you. You know what? And that's how I take it about. You can do the same thing if you have it in the PDF, which basically, let me just share this. So that's the sigil. Very cool one. And here you can actually get Poel. It's the 149th Psalm, verse 4. And if I am reading this correctly, give me 1 second. The Lord upholdeth all that fall and rises up all those that have been bowed down. Yeah. So again, to bring, and it's basically the same thing, just kind of bullet pointed. But yeah, this is a cool angel. I mean, there's others in here that, again, they got their thing, and that's cool because you want them on the team. But yeah, so this Poel with Ariel, just, kinds of just goes right in hand. That's all I got to say. And dig these angels, really do. I think it's because we show probably respect to them. We talk about them. Particularly, we talk about them in a real positive way. And who doesn't dig that? It's like someone says, that group was talking about you. Yeah. Well, no, you don't get it. What about it? They were really talking about you. I mean, talking you up. Oh, well, love those people. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, what else is going on? Hey, Jenny, what's up, girl? Hey, Gaia. Tomorrow is going to work out just fine. Get back to that. Magic flowing, and 3 people came out of the blue and aided me with my garden today. Love it. I got some stories yesterday that were just far out. People are experiencing, I'll share it with you because I don't think I'm violating here. Someone got the tickets to the Pittsburgh game, the professional team, and free. She said they were like $70 a piece. That's prospering. I don't care what anyone says. That's prospering. Again, if you find a penny, don't ever walk by that penny. Pick it up. You're a penny richer than what you were. It's just a matter of opinion, but that's how I look at it. So, and I love this Poel. So, and I was saying this today. So Poel is the symbol of luck, hope, power, and knowledge. Hey, they can come into my house and have tea with me anytime. All four of those: hope, luck, power, and knowledge. And it's the good luck. It's the kind of luck that, if you got good luck, Trina's daughter, that was good luck. Besides angelic intervention. But yeah. And so I said, thank you, Poel, for bringing in the good luck into my life, into Lynn's life, and the hope and the power and the knowledge. Hey, love it. This is a cool being. That's all I got to say. So, Truth Seeker said, someone just gave me a house yesterday. Now, that's prosperity. That's prospering. Prosperity is it's a static, it's a condition, state of mind, state of consciousness. But when you're prospering, that is dynamic. That's ever going forward, ever increasing. And to get a house, I love it. See, I'm in the hospital getting tests done to find out why my pancreas is behaving badly. Well, Stephanie, we're just going to speak healing to you on that, girl. Sending you healing thoughts. I'm actually seeing your pancreas now and just, yeah. I think they're going to find the solution. They morph, learn about the loosh. We have here. People sending you healing energy your way, Stephanie. Well, you probably can see if you're here. So yeah. Heidi and Martin, are they in here today? I haven't seen them yet. David Castle, what's up? So I asked the question as well, and no one wanted to answer that question. So now that I got the little group, and people are probably still figuring out that, hey, is this dude live? Yeah, he's live. Going, okay, fine. So no one answered the question that what is the age of humanity? And it's interesting because if you answer the question, and I gave 4 choices, I said 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, a million. How old is humanity? Hey, Martin, Heidi, what's up? There y'all are. Good to see you. Much love to you. Susie Q, hello. How are you? And Suzanne, good to see you. Maddie, what's up? Ageless. Okay. It very well could be. I mean, I don't know. My problem that I came out of was this. This is, or still is, it's the Bible I had. This Bible I got in 1984, filled with all sorts of my consciousness at the time. And this was predicated my reality. Everything that this book said, everything I studied this, I've read this book 1,000 times from one cover to the other, 1,000+ times. And it's interesting because this book is predicated on the foundation that if you read the genealogy of the book of Matthew primarily, but it's repeated several times within the Old Testament, it leads back to a finite date. The Jews believe that man was created in the year somewhere about 35 BC, or if you want to call it CE, however you want to call it, before the current event, BCE. That means that everything prior to that is not associated with us. Doesn't matter what we find in the archaeological record, no matter what we find as we dig deeper, that would say everything contrary to that. And this is part of that Godspell that has, it permeated academics for nearly 1400 plus years. Our academic understanding has been so corrupted until we broke out of it, which has just been here recently. And it's getting to a point here because we're studying about demons. I think this is becoming a very important topic. Very few people will watch these videos. That's cool. But the ones, again, as I said, the ones that do, we're challenging real core belief systems here. My radio show last night, was it freaked some people out. I think I sent a couple maybe into shock. They weren't doing real well, because when you look at things from a different perspective, it sometimes clears away the fugue of your current deception. And it may be that we're all in a realm of deception. No matter what we think, it's still not right. But in any case, so the Bible, the Quran, Vedic, they give finite points of where we come into the picture. And it appears that everything after that is a causality effect. I mean, the whole thing of the fallen angels and then the corrupting of man and, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem is that when you begin to backdate the stories, like doing a background check, and that's what I told people years ago, the reason why I left religion was it failed the background check. I should have done it from the very beginning. Wasn't smart enough. Should have done a complete, thorough background on the whole dogma, the whole theology. Because what I'm finding out, it's not adding up. There's no way that any demon would react to a name called Jesus. There's no way that if you look at this construct, that there was something before us. Now, they won't tell us who was before us, because it would appear that we are the prisoners here. That some extraterrestrial being came down and took humanity captive, changed humanity's destiny, changed humanity's whole perception on what reality is. And everything about the occult, everything about witchcraft, everything about religion is really all the same thing. It's just different points on a line. What if it's all wrong? And if it is, then we got some conundrums here. Evil exists in the world today. It is here. We all live it. Many of us have experienced it. So what is it? If you take the religion out of it, so now you've got no game in the whole situation, because you've said, up religion, I ain't got time for it, don't want it. All right, so what have they done? Did they corrupt you? And so now you're on the other side. But when you get to the other side, you say, F you again. I don't want this. I don't agree with you, and I don't agree with you. So then you have to rebuild the whole core and say, all right, so what's the story? So I'm tired of the bullshit where the religious dogma even permeates in this group. Because the whole perception of a demon is that it's all based on an Abrahamic belief system. Or you can go with the Jinn, or you can go over into the Hindu. I call BS on it all. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Once we give belief to it, whether it's individually or collectively, it becomes real. That's why individual belief systems can be so hard. So let's get right into it, because as I asked on my show last night, are we under a satanic administration? Is there a power? Is there a force that is not recognizable, but is very much visible? And if it is it evil? And if it's evil, then what is the net gain here? What's the sum total of the equation? Because I can't buy this limited story of fallen angels from somehow in some imaginary kingdom that, that they fly around, and, I can't buy that. It failed the background check. So I like people like King who come out and say, all right, well, let's strip away all that. So I've talked enough. I'm going to go a little bit over because of my mistake. But there we go. All right. So we left off that where civilization has faced catastrophe. Now, if you believe in catastrophism, which I do, there's evidence that it happens. If our sun goes nova, we're in deep trouble here. It will wipe us out. If something changes in the earth that we don't understand yet, like sudden tectonic shifting, where in a blink of an eye, all the plates on the entire planet shift, which starts a whole process, that would wipe us out. And if there are, in fact, survivors, which there appears to have been, I mean, I haven't heard any rational explanation yet of how at one time there was as many as 5 different genuses of man sharing the planet. How did that happen? And then how is it that we apparently annihilated the other 6? Apparently even more. Something about sapiens. Are we contaminated? Are we somehow infected? I don't know. And if you're saying that Neanderthal was nothing more than rubbing 2 sticks in a cave and hadn't figured out how to keep warm, and hadn't figured out how to make clothing, hadn't figured out how to get environmental issues taken care of, well, then you got to look at that man is basically, and this is what I got in my meditating this morning, that if you look at the current perception of humanity, no matter what point of view, it says that humanity is a retard, is completely retarded, and is incapable of advancement. If a species has taken 12,000 years to get to this point, we are basically retarded. We're somehow regressed. We're somehow flawed. But that's what the current academic world sees us as. That's flawed. So what happened here? So let's get into it. He's talking about what level of civilization might emerge from a catastrophe. Much of what once existed would be lost. Comforts, conveniences would probably be the first things to go, the last things to reappear. Through the years or generations following the terrible demise of the former culture, the fledgling society would be yearning for its previous pastimes and easier modes of survival. I mean, I can't believe that a man 50,000 years ago couldn't figure out the difference between what a cot is and sleeping on the ground. I can't accept that. It's as if this were to happen today and all the nations of the world were reduced to rubble while only a few random assortment of stragglers and a host of rainforest dwellers remained. The few who could recall the good old days would likely wish there were supermarkets instead of scratching up the earth for their own potatoes. There would be an endless list of lamentable losses that could apparently never be recovered without the large number of peoples or sophisticated technologies required to produce them. This situation, or something close to it, quite possibly has occurred at least once in a large span of time occupied humans, insignificant as the span may be in terms of the greater geologic time scale. So I just ask, were there demons here? I mean, were there the angels? I mean, are we dealing with something in Battlestar Galactica? Are we dealing with some species of being that travels the galaxies, that bring their culture in? They're somehow ascended somehow, but they don't have perfection, because perfection would mean death. So they bring their duality, because even the evil teaches us something. So you can't say that evil's all bad. And again, evil's just merely what you perceive it to be. It is precisely this longing for the good old days during a formative period that leads to corruption of the social organism, and ultimately what makes it vulnerable to demonic obsession. Amid the chaos, confusion, and despair of the New World Order, and with suspicions vastly better ways of doing things that are mysteriously absent but not quite forgotten, the growing civilization delves into speculation on what was once done and how could it be revived. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. The deluge is one of the most popular cataclysm stories of the last 4,000 years. It should not require repetition here, nor should any of the details be believed as precise facts, nor is it necessary to believe in an event at all in order to understand how the concept relates to demonology. The story of how civilization recovered from the deluge is illustrative of a primary concept of demonic activity that will be described later in this work. For the sake of convenience, the various stories of a great flood drawn from several different cultures will be largely ignored at this point. The general reader of this age in any English-speaking country is at least nominally familiar with the account of the event rendered in the Bible. Few are intimately familiar with the details of the ensuing events, which are admittedly rather cryptic at times, but every schoolchild knows the tale of the Tower of Babel. The story of the Tower of Babel has become synonymous with vain endeavor, and its themes underscores much of what passes later in Western theology. Very simply stated, not long after the deluge, which destroyed almost everyone, the people came together as a nation unified by a titanic building project. The name of their leader, Nimrod, is used as an epithet for the ignorant person filled with foolish and stubborn pride, though it actually comes from the Hebrew word namar, meaning leopard. Like a leopard, Nimrod is described as a mighty hunter before the Lord. This has been falsely translated as against the Lord by those who wish to demonize Nimrod. But the word for before, lifithna, is in Hebrew is used many times in the Bible to indicate placement in plain sight in front of something, and nowhere else in opposition signified as the meaning of the word. They did a little topology there. Nimrod, the hunter, was the first king after the flood, and under his government, all people lived in peace and devoted themselves to one great work. What the hell's wrong with that? Here we are. We're all digging each other. We're all grooving. We all got our own vibe going, but man, we're unified. Yeah. You see that thing up there? Mm-hmm. My kids worked on that. I worked on that back in the time, and we're making great progress. I had to have some very smart people, engineers, mathematicians. They had to have no doubt, I contend AI. They had to have the instruments, the tools to do the mathematics, to do the math, to make sure. I mean, this is amazing advancement in technology for a race or a species that just got its ass kicked. And the thing is, isn't it interesting outside of the religious environment? But look at this. This is Woodstock, man. That's all I got to say. Instead of the stage, we got that tower, man. So the abandonment of the Tower of Babel, the failure of the great work, is a critical element of the story. God saw that the people could accomplish anything since they were unified. So their languages were confused and the work left incomplete. People separating to once again fill the earth and subdue it. Now, I have said that this is a rape. You see, there was only one God that taught humanity abortion. That's the God of the Bible. The fact, Jack. Just go and read it. Read the book of Joshua. Anyway, I digress. So here is the first crime against every God that's out there. This God had no right to do any of this. This was an attack. Now, I don't know what evil is defined as, but this is evil. When you do this to a people, my question is, what was it afraid of? The fact that we could accomplish anything if we were ever unified? You see, today the world is divided. It's so divided in so many ways, as Trina and I talk about, the fractals. Our whole society is so fractured. But this, whether it's allegory, metaphorical, or if there is elements of truth within it, this was a rape upon Homo sapiens by something that's taking itself as credit as a god. And I expect to see probably some thumbs down, and I don't give a damn. It's time you start learning some truth here. Anyway, critics of the Bible have argued that this shows malice on the part of God. No shit. Who saw fit to confound the people during only the time they were completely at peace and under human government. I mean, because what we've been under for the last 4,000 years sucks. No government has worked. Never. Since there is no evidence in the story to indicate that Nimrod was a tyrant, and since there was not at the time any of the abominable behavior that provoked the flood initially, the blame for this disruption is often laid at the feet of the Lord. Is there another point of view? On the other hand, Nimrod and Babel featured occasionally in the lore of demonology. In no such case is there a straightforward argument against Nimrod and his great work. But though many sidelong glance, he has been consistently maligned as an evildoer, a sorcerer, an idolater, and a tyrant. The Malice Malfrocorum, Part 1, Question 2, wherein the author draws together the accusations of the Vivius, I believe that is, Vivius, and St. Augustine accuses Nimrod of not only practicing these things, but of being their point of origin. Well, ain't that convenient, Gomer Pyle? Well, gee, I mean, now I know where it all started from. Well, that makes it so much easier. Some modern sects of Christianity add a further dimension that the idea of Nimrod as the source of the post-cataclysm corruption. No evidence. The wife of Nimrod, who is not named in the Bible, was supposedly kept in idleness while her husband led mankind in peace and unity. During this time, she is assumed to have turned her attention to the mysteries of the former age. Wow. Through her devotion to the arcane, so that the legend goes, voices from beyond reached into the new society and wrought its corruption. Well, there's also this thing called the Stone of Seth. It is said before the flood hit that Seth, who had all the knowledge of Adam, went in and made an artifact that was hidden deep inside a cave. The story or the legend goes that it was Nimrod who found it. Now, Nimrod became a Nephilim, or so the legend goes. Well, they're going to have to make him a demonic somehow. But it said that when he wore Adam's loincloth, that he was transformed. So many stories. This story illustrates the scenario wherein a newly formed civilization seeks to draw upon the resources of a past and forgotten era, and in so doing causes disruption within itself. The world before the disaster, whether that disaster was the flood or flame, famine or plague or whatever, was not perfect. In the case of the Tower of Babel, the world before the flood was so far from perfect that it was considered fit for annihilation. Serious stuff when you take it away, all this thing, and you say, well, if this actually happened, writings of it in every culture, wow, was this a natural cause and effect? Well, then we can remove all this nonsense out because it was simply the way the universe is. It's how planets and asteroids and everything, they bounce off each other. No demons, no angels, no God. With rose-tinted glasses, the eager seeking of assistance from the lost age highlights some of the remarkable luxuries and ultimately ignores whatever horrors were therein commonplace. By revitalizing one aspect of the dead age, many others are also revived as side effects that continue to wield damaging influence. It may be a stretch to make the comparison, but imagine a calamity so great that the world simply forgot how to make seats, pillows, and sofas. In the new world, one could lounge on rocks, a log, or on a bare ground. Perhaps the wealthy would have swimming pools. There would be discomfort, but perhaps not nearly as much idleness as is produced by a society infatuated with recliner chairs. When the secret of producing comfortable furniture is once again discovered, the population finds itself infested with lethargy. If the effect might seem dramatic for the desire and the discovery of something as trivial and inert as a pillow, it is far worse when the same effect is considered in relation to spirits that are neither inert nor accommodating. In an incident such as that of the legendary flood, there is a further element at work than mere searching inwardly for the better parts of a lost and dysfunctional society. The people who died wanted, presumably, to go on living. In the new world, with fewer living things around, there are not a surplus of inhabitable bodies of any sort. Oh, this is getting interesting. The desire to maintain continuity of consciousness, however, was intense. And this is especially so in the case of the society that assumed the inhabitant of Earth before, the deluge, materialistic and wicked. Now we get the kids' version in the story of Noah. The real version is for adults. Their untimely demise, now you think about this, like Star Wars, when the Death Star blew up the planet. Everyone in the Force could feel it. said ultimately the demise would have been no reason for these people to simply stop wishing to exist or to go on towards some greater existence devoid of their customary living conditions. In addition, there would be a disproportionate number of dead people and only a few living. Each one of these dead people would have had some trauma at the time of death, accompanying a great deal of indignance about having been simply washed away, perhaps literally. The combination of the desire of spirits to make contact with the living and the desire of the living to seek their counsel produces the primary circumstances under which demons are encountered initially, and under which their further work among humanity is founded. What is he saying here? I was taught that the demons, the spirits, because of this catastrophe, have never found their way back, and that the demons are in fact us, or remnants of us. This is kind of adding to that. Though in the influence of the demon may there thwart at any time, its initial appearance as an exterior influence in the culture or in the individual may be traced to a time of confusion, banality, and desperation, wherein the person makes a conscious and voluntary effort to seek unknown aid. The most visible sources of assistance for nearly everyone are other people. When help is sought, it is for human-oriented causes, and it is expected to come from a source sympathetic, or at least the equivalent to that which could be provided by a human. As this is the manner in which the spirit is sought, it is the manner in which it is most often manifest, as something similar to that which would be produced by a human. If it does something like what a person would do if it could. Or if it appears in visions, it appears in a form of recognizable to a human's or even as one. These are merely conditions of the search for assistance, however, and are not reflective of the nature of the spirit, only the elements volunteered towards its control. And stop to think about this. If you died in the flood, the great flood, chances are you're pissed off. I mean, you really are. And you're going to be really pissed about humans today. Why, those sons of bitches, they're enjoying what I was supposed to live forever. I could have had that. In fact, I did have that. I had something better than that, but they got, you see where it goes? The corruption of mankind in a former age and the incongruence of that age with present needs is yet insufficient to explain the prevalence of evil in this world. However, it might have been that the dead called out in anguish or sought vengeance for the injustice and the atrocity. They are dead and remain so. It is not the dead themselves whose voices are heeded recklessly in such an incident, but the idea that there is someone beyond the normal range of senses who will listen and answers to cries for help. The demons are perfectly willing to impose themselves at the receiving end of such cries. The typical conditions, like the post-disaster scenarios mentioned previously, need not be considered wide range or necessary. There are plenty of smaller incidences in the life of every society and of every individual wherein a similar set of circumstances exist. An eager hand grasps into the void, seeking help, and is itself pulled in by the force. Thus, those seduced are not necessarily prone to become withdrawn, antisocial, and destructive. On the contrary, many receive what appears to be the help that they had originally wanted. Their ideas, inspired by demons, become instituted as trends, guiding principles, even laws. This is not always the case, but as mentioned before, it is not uncommon to find evil at work in any part of society, and it is unreasonable to place the blame for this evil in the human hands alone. At the roots of evil, then, are not men, rather as byproducts of a bad upbringing, or by deliberate conspiracies? Nor can evil be traced to a point of origin within men of long ago, or even to men from Mars. The origin of evil is not to be found in any living thing, for life tends towards its growth and towards the participation of further forms of life, nor in the spirits of those who have once lived and yearn to live again. Evil, to which man is bent beyond necessity, has an origin beyond physical reality. It is of the spirit. It is supernatural in character. Those spirits who exist only for evil and who are its sole causes in all ages are those who are called demons. The history of these spirits, as has been said before, is irrelevant except as trivia. There is no gain in knowing the true origin of demons, nor any way to verify such knowledge. A few of the more popular ideas are presented here, but the list is by no means exhaustive. Nearly every nation with a spiritual belief has some concept of demonic spirits. I can think of no traditional theology which accounts only for benevolent entities, if any are all present at all. There is a common perception that some of the spirits, at least, are opposed to human endeavor. It is possible to roughly divide the cultural beliefs in demons into several categories. In the first category are those who believe in the existence of good and evil spirits who are locked in conflict. In the second are those whose customs that identify demons as vanquished spirits relegated to an inferior position. The third category contains those few nations who consider all spirits demonic, with some few being more tolerable on account of human negotiations. These categories are mutually exclusive. In order for one to be correct, the others must be wrong. This accounts to a flat dismissal, a presumption of ignorance on the part of millions or even billions of people. Strange as it may seem, it is wholly possible for billions of people assured by faith or by experience to simply have the wrong idea about demons or anything else. I prefer to think that no one of these perspectives is in possession of the full story, and so make errors according to their own particular form of ignorance. The primary area in any of these systems is the idea that their particular mythos is in all parts congruent to reality. When examining any of these three categories or theological systems of demonology, it is important to remember that they are a collection of ideas built upon oral and written traditions of many millions of people passed through many generations. These are no hasty philosophies. They are long pondered mysteries of faith upon which great nations have been founded and which are very significant to the cultures they have helped to develop. They are also merely ideas subject to reasonable comment, wherein a perspective is expressed rather than an indisputable set of facts handed down from the blessed abode. These systems are indicative of the manner in which these cultures approach the subject of evil spirits and are an attempt to find truth, but should not be mistaken for truth itself. Among those nations who view demonic spirits as a source of everlasting trouble, the perception of spirit tends to be varied with whatever ills are found to be the most persistent. The spirits of evil, according to these traditions, were always there and will always exist as a balance to the powers of harmony and goodness. For each spirit, there is a remedy. There is no hope among these nations to utterly destroy evil forever, nor to describe to the demons as emanating from a dire incident in the remote past. This category of belief applies to many of what were at one time considered primitive societies. Tribal lore of all inhabited continents presents examples of demons and good spirits also, living in a sort of balanced harmony similar to that in which animals thrive, and the descriptions of spirits tend to include animal forms. It is almost universal among these tribes who subscribe to such beliefs that spirits are encountered casually, as one would unwittingly stumble upon a predator or receive the bite of a spider, rather than out of any insistent desire of the spirit to seek out human victims. This category is in some ways a retreat from the question of demonic origins. This is in its strength and weakness at the same time. It is an advantage in that it allows one to avoid obscure lore concerning fictional histories of spirits, which permits one to deal with spirits as they interact with people directly, rather than through the lens of a systematic theology. It is a weakness in that it presents no clear picture of the enemies, and the result in a mix of taboos and amulets as wards off spiritual intrusion, whether or not they are needed or effective. One of the more civilized forms of this category is the nation of the ancient Persians. Much has been written on Persians' beliefs, and it would take many volumes to arrive at a complete understanding of this culture. But for the present, it is enough to say that the Persians maintained a dualist religion for quite some time. To them, good and evil were equal in strength, and in eternity was a conflict between the forces of light and darkness. In this ancient religion, the tip in the balance between good and evil could only be accomplished by the individual human soul. And even then, the decision was effectively only for the individual soul. There was no victory of the good spirit over the evil, and no power of the evil that could overcome the good. Ultimately, they were equal, and it was up to the individual to choose his or her own side. Choosing one way or the other for the Persians was not a matter of lending support to the team so that it could win. The consequences were entirely personal. The figures at the end of either goal, light or darkness, was abstract and immutable. It was this obscurity that led eventually to the Persians' religion deteriorating into monotheism, who wished to blend light and darkness into one source, and to the polytheists, who wished to promote regional deities and mythological figures as an alternative to mystical abstractions. It is clear that the Persian religion had a tremendous influence in the development of much ancient theology. Persian dualism has been adapted permanently in recent years by those who favor the darkness, perhaps on account of a promotion of evil as equal in power to good. In the second category, however, are those who view evil as a subject of good or even conquered by it. Wow. You got to say you got an education right there. And look how the dualism still is here today. I got symbolism all around this office. My life is symbolism. Oh, that's good stuff. I hope you like it. I mean, like I said, those who really are listening, I mean, you're gaining information here that is going to equip you even further. So I said I'm going to go over about 10 minutes. So I want to get into this next part. Man, though the man himself might be more aligned to the third category of beliefs, the so-called religions of Abraham are for the present age the very definition of the second type of demonology. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam propose that there is a supreme deity with his spiritual cohorts, who are all good, and that there is a separate group of evil spirits who have been condemned. Each of these religions wrongly determined the big three among the worldwide faiths deserves special attention. It is misleading to assume that any of these religions of Abraham, by virtue of greater numbers of adherents, has a claim on spiritual truth. Abraham himself had a rather broad view of the divine, according to the stories in each of the religions founded upon his name, involve diverse sects with many conflicting specific tenets. Judaism could hardly be rightly considered one of the top three religions, as it claims such a small percentage of the faithful people of the world. Though to any English speaker, Christianity appears to dominate the modern age. It had a very limited presence in comparatively recently. Islam had become a somewhat contentious subject lately, but despite its current presentation as a system of faith, it was at one time a sanctuary of science during the Dark Ages. With all of this, fascinating though it may be, the present study is concerned entirely and specifically with the way in which these religions approach the subject of demons. It should not be thought that these religions are alone in their understanding of demonic spirits as vanquished enemies of a superior divine force. The ancient Greeks, who undoubtedly left an influence on biblical lore and the ancient Jewish writings, also considered evil spirits to have been debased by the might of the noble gods. The key characteristic of the second type of demonology is that the spirits of evil are not merely enemies of the good spirit, they have been conquered. These systems usually have devised a place of punishment or containment for the defeated spirits. The struggle in which the demons lost their position is universally described as taking place in the far distant past, before the existence of humanity. Wow. Okay. Since it's obvious that no person was around to witness these events, these stories could only be considered hearsay or speculation at the very best. These systems are not necessarily founded upon the authority of prophets, scribes, and sages, in whom the faithful have placed their trust for uncounted centuries. Whether or not these men spoke reliably is of no importance. It is enough to know that they have said and to place it within the appropriate theological context. The three religions of Abraham, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam each offer a perspective on this subject which is identical in some ways and indifferent in others. The similarities and differences will be explained as follows. The first paragraph of the Torah, the primary religious text of Judaism and of Christianity, describes the world before creation as a great depth. This might be considered a primal ocean, the abyss, or quite literally, the waters. God looks out upon this depth as if it were already existed when constructing the universe as we know it. And I never told you that part. There is a very basic assumption that before the world, as we knew it existed, before anything was actually created, there was already something else that had been created long before. Though it may have been mere poetic device of the author of Genesis or some obscure description of the condition of the world in the far distant past, the seeming contradiction of existence before creation has led to many speculation among theological scholars. One of the more interesting explanations for this discrepancy in the text concerns the formation of the world of shells. The Hebrew word for this is, I believe that is galapath, refers to broken shards as a smashed pottery or of shells lying broken and empty along the beach. Ancient Jewish scholars consider I think that I'm right on that, is galapath, to be the world from which demons arose. Theirs was the world before creation, which was inadequate to serve the divine purpose. They were given a chance, and by their choice or by their nature, they failed to match the standards which had been decided by the Lord. The key elements of the idea of the galapath are dysfunction and inadequacy. They were unable to sustain the freedoms and powers which God wished the world to contain, and thus they were broken. They were not, however, destroyed. Rather, they were set apart, sunken, and lost, silenced, and covered with the darkness of the abyss. There, They were condemned to brood, to rest, and to exist as they saw fit forever, having no part whatsoever in the creation which followed after. You want a scary story? What the freak? Nowhere among the writings of the scribes is it described why God, infinitely wise and powerful, would have created a dysfunctional and inadequate creation. Lilith said, because he's broken. He is incomplete. I digress. The religions of Abraham do not permit the suggestion that God wished to create something of less than perfect purpose. Yet everywhere is the assertion that God desired all intelligent spirits to have freedom. The assumption, therefore, is that the spirits who were the inhabitants of the former world, the world of shells, had somehow conspired against the better purposes that had been ordained by the Lord. This theme was taken up with much vigor in medieval Christians who insisted that the demons have attempted to overthrow heaven and usurp the place of God with the devil as their chief. The lore of Judaism says very little that would support this idea, or rather, nothing at all, save vague references to spiritual battles penned during the dawn of the Christian age. It was this supposed assault on heaven that led Christian authors and theologians to consider the demons and the devil their leader, were not active in the world, but condemned to an existence of suffering within an eternal prison. It is possible, and I believe likely, that this concept of an imprisoned infernal host is taken from the Greek notion of Tartarus. Within the Titans were condemned along with all workers of evil. Not surprisingly, both locals are located somewhere metaphorically under the ground and were established long before the emergence of mankind. A difficulty in this system stems from the idea that the demons are imprisoned in fire, chains, and darkness deep within an impenetrable and eternal prison. Yet, however, they manage to be constantly tormenting the living. Well, how the hell does that work? Christianity resolves this dilemma by suggesting that the actual destruction of spirits, the second death, wherein all evildoers are consigned to the immortal fire, should take place only at the end of time after the final judgment has been executed. Islam takes a somewhat different track, suggesting that in addition to the demons, there is another race of humans like intelligences, possessing souls but not bodies, called the Jinn. According to Islam, the Jinn live among people. And if you've ever watched Paranormal Caught on Camera, you've seen what these look like. There ain't anything I want to mess with. But according to Islam, they take the same roles and responsibilities as people and make decisions to be noble or wicked as any other person might do. Within the Islamic religion, it is no mystery that evil spirits might exist actively outside of their imprisonment, since any of these jinn might choose to do evil. A common thread among all of these religions is that at some time in the distant past, the spirits of evil or their leaders made a distinct choice to oppose the existence of good and seek the ruin of mankind. All of these religions presume that the spirits are now dedicated to evil, were at one time created as good, but are now, by their own choice, corrupted and irredeemably malevolent. And I can't get to the other part. That's a shame because, anyway, we'll pick this up. I mean, this is powerful stuff. I love the comparison. For those of you who are still here, it still says we're live, so it's cool. I mean, now we're coming up on All Hallows Eve. You know, this is the thing, you know, September is about gone and we're about to see the year go away. But to me, this is, you know, so you meet a demon. You got some idea now about it. At least you've got it from a perspective of several different religious beliefs. Now, he gets into this further into the fact that when you find out who they really are, yeah, If evil is on one end of the scale, what is on the other end of the scale? It would have to be good. I don't know how you would, they're both on the same line. What else going on? Well, thank you, Susie Q. Deborah, it is very interesting. The judgment is where they will get, and again, hello, Joyce, how are you doing? Scotty boy, what's up? There is no judgment. I just got to tell you that is a false doctrine. And within that false doctrine, it is the truth. And it says, if you judge yourself, then who else is qualified to judge you? If you're being judged to a standard, whose standard is that? It means it's not your standard, it's somebody else's standard. And if I'm being judged, I love this conversation because it gets to be the round robin. Well, wait a minute. What are you judging me on? Well, because you did bad. Well, that means I'm imperfect? Well, you're not perfect. Well, if I'm not perfect, how would I else? Why is an imperfect bad or is imperfect good? Exactly, Isby. I agree with you. Thank you, Robert Scott. Thank you. I do write them all out, so thank you. That's a compliment. Lucky, you're close because you see. Remember what we've been looking at, Daemon? We look at the word translation. It really comes back to divine ones. We've been so misled as to who are the divine ones. If you go by the modern term, Lucky, I would say that we're that. Hey, Nina the Mystic, what you doing, dear? You have your show. Going to get back to you on that one. Thank you, Deborah Truax, on the date, Nina. So, Chrissy, good to see you. This is good stuff, folks. There's nothing evil, spooky about it. It's rational thought of saying, all right, let's look at all these belief systems. Where did they originate from? And we're finding out we don't know. So that's Sunday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Absolutely. Maybe they are aspects of our ego. Eye of the Maelstrom, that is a great, great one. You're welcome, Martin and Heidi. Much love to you. And Tony. Love y'all. Dave Sullivan. Yeah, I do make mistakes. And I can admit them. It's like, hey, I screwed up on that one. But you know what? The funny thing is that you get to laugh at it. And it's like, all right, yeah. Now, some mistakes are a little bit worse. I agree. Ballot Brian? Well, thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Doug, how are you doing? Nina Fetty, how are you doing? Kazhawk, much love to you. Jules, love you, darling. Beloved Abstract, surrender to not knowing and see what happens. Usually it kind of screws up along there somewhere, doesn't it? All right, folks, have yourself a great weekend. I mean, get out and party. I mean, just enjoy it. The world's messed up, man, but I think we're going to have at least some knowledge at the end of this. And it's still interesting. So how old is humanity? Well, it appears that whatever that answer is, it appears these beings were original occupants of the earth. And that gets real interesting because you begin to think about if they were the original occupants of the earth, who are they? What were they? How did all this get to where it is today? I don't know. Isby 6963, much love to you. Thank you. I see them differently too. I mean, I think for so long they have been so alienated that when I guess with most humans they go by, it's like, oh, here comes another one of them. We're going to really jack with them, aren't we? Maybe if you just say, listen, I get it. I don't understand your culture. I'm willing to learn, and there ain't nothing I want from you. Can we all live in peace, man? All right. Hey, Big Al, you're heading to you and Perry. Much love to y'all both. Well, thank you, Robert Scott. Thank all of you. All right, folks. Went way over, but this is fun stuff. And the one thumbs down, it's cool. This is not for everybody, but it's some pretty cool stuff for the rest of us. It's like, yeah, I'm adding this to my chest. You know what I'm saying? Uh-huh. All right. Peace out, everyone. Much love. Remember, it's easier to think love than it is to think hate. It's much more easier to hug your brother and sister than it is to, otherwise. Oh, Jules, thank you. Gonna bring tears to my eyes. All right. Much love to all of you. Paul, Joe, peace to you. Everyone else, peace out. Remember, we did bring rock and roll to the world. Can you imagine that? Was rock and roll here before we brought it? I mean, what did those stars sound like? I mean, did they have a Hendrix? Did they I know a Clapton?